Welcome back, episode 16. How's it going?
Wow.
Yeah, we have a different cast today. Kind
Yeah.
of. We're missing one typical member, but
A returning guy.
we brought on another. So here, Keith. We'll even. That goes from
Wow. The podcast is progressing as time goes by here.
We're getting a little better. A little better
Yeah.
with it. So Binger, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going really well. Happy to sub in. I hear Jeremy's a little bit under the weather today, so yeah, happy to step in. Should be fun.
He's a little worried that you're gonna do such a good job. It's gonna be like the Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe. He may not be back up here.
Tell him not to worry.
So Binger, you just got back from Spain.
I did.
Can you give us a little
Yeah.
update on what that was for?
Yeah. So I was in Spain. It was the Gradient Grand Gala, and that's where we take our top 25 or so producers on a summer trip. It's usually a very nice trip. This time it was last year it was in Scotland. This year it was it's either Malaga or Malaga. I've heard it pronounced both ways, but Malaga, Spain. You generally fly in through Paris, and then you go to the Malaga airport, and then you take a bus down to a town called Marbella, and that's where the resort was that we stayed at, the Anaterra resort. And so it's really nice. I mean, it was very Spanish deserty type of terrain there. It's really kind of a playground for the wealthy in Europe and kind of the Middle East a little bit too. A lot of influence from there.
Sounds like you're kind of crap.
Yeah. No surprise you're over there.
Yeah, I mean, people looked like they were really enjoying themselves. Not a lot of travel snafus, despite the crowd strike problem persisting there. And people enjoyed themselves. I mean, we had a short business meeting, got some business taken care of, and there was, some expeditions and tours and dinners. But it was just a great chance for our producers and some of the folks here at Gradient to kind of relax and, discuss things for 4 days and rub shoulders a little bit. And everyone enjoyed it. In fact, a lot of people, decided to go a week early or stay a week later, that kind of thing. So there's still some folks traveling over there. But
do you rub elbows with any of the athletes that were coming over, since you said that you had to go through Paris?
Yeah.
I did not see any athletes on our Olympic athletes on our flight at all. And I was actually looking for them too. So so I didn't see any on ours, or I didn't see any in the Paris airport. Which we were stuck in for 6 hours.
Was there much buzz about the Olympics over in Spain at all, or is that more your resort wise? It wasn't really
not
the case.
So much.
Okay.
I do know in a bigger city, I think Jay Guerin, our president of life insurance, he was over in, I believe it was Madrid, and I think the women's Spanish team won their first soccer game or something, so they're celebrating over there. But no, not a lot of buzz in Marbella.
Interesting. Well, a quick Olympic update for those of you who may not follow the Olympics. This was as of this morning, so this could change by the time this comes out. But the U.S. officially has 27 medals.
Nice.
We only have 4 gold, though. And China officially is in first place with the most gold medals.
Now, is it more important to get golds than
that's what I don't
total?
know.
I seem they make a big deal of, obviously gold's obviously the best, but
yeah,
I would think the quality, if you're getting, because I think our silvers were up there too. I saw the 27 for total, but our silvers were like 17 or something, which sounds pretty good.
I mean, some notable sports as well. I think we've taken some medals. Like the one that my wife and I watched was men's gymnastics. I don't know if did you guys follow the men's gymnastics?
No, Tyler.
No.
Tyler, you and I, a little bit since our gymnastics kind of, your wife, my daughter. Gymnastics, but I did see a little bit right when that men's. I'm sure let's get your thoughts on the men's.
Well, so the guy, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Stephen Nadorosik,
close enough.
But anyways, so his sole job the entire time, the last event out of 6 was the pommel horse. His sole job the entire Olympics was just to do the pommel horse. In high school, he focused on pommel horse. He went to college for pommel horse, and then he was on the Olympic team.
Which is unusual. Normally,
which is unusual, right?
Several different events.
And he absolutely crushed it, and people are going nuts about him because he's, nerdy looking, had glasses on. At one point, it looked like he was taking a nap.
Literally, I turned it on right before he went. I didn't know who he was, whatever. And I see him in the background after, I think it's Brody, which is one of our best, men's. Yep. He did a fantastic job. Everybody's cheering. And I see this guy in the background sitting with his glasses on. I'm like, is this like the team manager? He's got a suit on. I'm like, who is this guy? Next thing you know, he's on the horse and he's just crushing it. So he had to get a good enough score on the pommel horse to get them to bronze, and he did it. And immediately after, he put his glasses back on. I don't know. Everybody's going crazy for him, but that was probably the most notable for me. Anyways, topic of the week. It's just a big news week, I think. That's kind of more my hot button. We've got big tech reports this week. We've got the Federal Reserve coming out as of recording. It'll be this afternoon on their policy decision. Bank of England meets as well. Then we have the jobs report on Friday, and then just a whole slew of companies reporting their second quarter earnings last week, this week, and then certainly next week. So starting with big tech, they're going to report their second quarter earnings. We got Microsoft last night. We're going to get Meta tonight, Apple, Amazon tomorrow, right? We had Google last week, and
Alphabet last week. So is there one of those kind of tech plus mega cap tech names that is more important to the market than the other?
Not of that list. I think the one that's most important is NVIDIA. So they're a little bit later, but let's start off with Microsoft reported, last night. It was a pretty solid quarter. I mean, the big thing everybody's looking for is their cloud growth, which was, they came in at 30% versus 31. So the stock was actually indicated down 7% after hours in the market, and it's bounced back here some. So I think it was a good quarter, not a great quarter, especially where valuation is. I would suspect it trades off a little bit. Mike, you got any thoughts on what the quarter looked like?
Well, it seems like the big tech companies that are benefiting, it seems like there's a theme right now. It's AI, and to produce or manufacture whatever you have to do with AI, you have to build a bunch of data centers. And it seems like data centers take a lot of semiconductor chips. So it seems like whoever feeds into the data center theme is really benefiting. I mean, I noticed AMD this morning was really having a good day based off of that. Microsoft said they're going to continue to spend on data centers. So, I mean, it seems like the aftermarket, which is generally kind of a knee-jerk reaction, was down big. But I mean, by the time we're done with this podcast, Microsoft may be up by the time we walk back downstairs.
I mean, 30%. Versus 31.
So I mean, it's not really on a big number, right? It's not like
billions, right? Like it's, I think it was 30 some billion, 32 billion, something like that.
And their capex, back to that, I think they did almost 14 billion in capex. To what Mike's point was, they're driving this spend for AI, which is NVIDIA. That's why I think that's the direct, beneficiary there. And AMD as well. That's what they reported last night.
NVIDIA is up big today without even reporting, and I feel like investors are saying, "Wow, if AMD is really benefiting from this AI chip surge, imagine what NVIDIA is going to do."
Since they're the leader.
When they report.
Right. But do you think all of these stocks are priced for perfection right now? Whether it's NVIDIA, Apple, like if you see a 1% miss on an important metric, like 1 percentage point, and the stock was indicated down 7, like are all of these big tech stocks that have been leading the market priced to perfection right now?
I wouldn't say perfection, because they've come off, the month of July, they're down, 2 to 10% plus. So I think they were getting close to price for perfection. But as long as they're upsiding in numbers, I think they'll be fine. I think we're getting to the end of the massive outperformance. I think that's why, we talked about, selling some of these names down, taking some profits, and looking as the market starts to widen out, which is exactly what happened in July, right? I mean, small cap stocks are up 10%. S&P was flat, and then large cap, those tech names are actually down. So you're starting to see some of that. So I think there's a little bit of give on, missing or not. If they miss, the stock will be down. But if, like that 30 versus 31, the knee jerk was down 7%. It's probably not that bad
Once
either,
you start
right?
digging through the
numbers,
not going to be as bad as people.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of rotation going on the past couple of weeks. I got asked that a lot down in at our trip in Spain by advisors. Is it time for the G50 versus some of these core select and G33 big tech portfolios? And we've noted that, like Keith said, in July the big tech names have pulled back a little bit, and it seems like some of the value stocks have picked up a little bit. So there has been a little bit of a rotation the past 2 weeks. I'm not so sure that 2 weeks makes a trend. So we'll see. People have been waiting for this pivot from growth to value for a long time and been calling for it for a long time. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I look at relative charts all the time. Keith, I know you do too, but the last couple of weeks between value and small caps have significantly outperformed any type of growth stock. So it's been interesting. Now you can see, if you look at the actual charts, you can see that every now and then they'll have this big outperformance, and then it just goes right back to the typical trade of large cap tech.
The other thing I've been noticing is all these names that were really strong performers going into the earnings here have kind of pulled back a little bit on earnings, and vice versa. The names that have been underperformers, even if their quarters haven't been that great, they've actually got a little bit of a bounce. So like Mike said, I think that'll be important to watch in the next few weeks.
I've got a question for you on a couple of those stocks here in a second, but Federal Reserve, also switching gears here. Federal Reserve, big news week. Do they do anything today?
Mike, he wants you to start.
Nope.
Simple answer.
No. I mean, they've had a couple of months at 3%. I don't think that's going to satisfy them. I think they're looking for that sub 2.5 kind of thing. But I think we're getting closer because the economy is surprised on the upside. Inflation surprised on the downside. So I think they're getting more comfortable that they can start to cut a little bit. It'd be nice to see a little proactivity out of the Fed and that they actually cut before things really slow down. So we'll see.
So are you in the camp of them cutting in September?
I'm more in the camp of, I even think it may be October or November or something. I don't think they need to cut. I mean, when, interest rates are where they are, and they've gone from super kind of unrealistic low levels to normal levels. So there's not this dire need to, I mean, it's not like we raised interest rates from 5% to 10%. We raised them essentially from 0 to 5, which is normal. And the economy has continued to be strong. Unemployment has continued to be below average, long-term averages. So I don't think they're in any rush, in my opinion.
Keith?
They don't cut this meeting here today, but I do think the probability now that they cut in September is actually up to 100%, which it's hard to ignore that and say that they're not going to do it till after that. So I do think they'll probably end up cutting. They'll have some language this time, pretty strong language that a cut's coming. But I think they'll caveat it with what Mike said. The economy is strong, inflation's going in the right direction, but we don't have to be aggressive in this cutting stance. And again, we don't want to see them being aggressive. Mike, don't you think if they aggressively come out and cut, there's something wrong with the economy? So,
well, I think folks are going to assume that if they're aggressively cutting, that they're seeing something that the rest of the world isn't seeing as far as slowdowns and that kind of thing. So,
well, it was funny. I read an interesting report from UBS this week, and their case is for them to cut in September, but they said that Powell is going to come out and act more on the hawkish stance rather than dovish, and he's not even going to try to hint at a potential cut in September. I was like, well, that's kind of
because usually they telegraph what they're going to do.
They want the market to know because they don't want to surprise anybody. So it's interesting that they had that take. But
I think they may be a little more hawkish because I think the market's pricing in almost 3 cuts before year end. That means a quarter now. I mean, a quarter sometime before the election, which would be the next one. We have one now. We have one in September. Then we have one in November and one in December. So 3 cuts would be basically, if you skip this one, a quarter point the next 3. So maybe he talks that back, and maybe the market I think is starting to like that idea. So maybe that we could see a little hiccup if we don't kind of get that.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with my December only.
Oh,
that's a bold call. Both of you two of you after the.
So we kind of got Keith in September. Yeah. I'm more in the middle there, and you're towards the end of the year. Okay. Yeah. I think we do 1 to 2 cuts this year, but I think it's in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Also, UBS has 6 cuts next year. I thought that was kind of
that's aggressive.
That was aggressive.
That's a lot.
And then the other big news item, jobs report. Is the jobs report more important than the Fed meeting?
I don't think so, but it's right up there, right? I mean, the jobs report, I think expectations are 4.1% we're looking for, and unemployment. If that starts going quite a bit higher, that'll be a bad sign. But I think it's going to be kind of around consensus is, and if that's the case, I think the Fed's commentary is more important than that number. But again, if that number's an outlier, that could change.
Yeah, I'm not sure if good news is good news or good news is bad news there, or I mean, I think if it's higher than the 4.1, that investors might actually look at that as maybe a positive thing that this, the Fed does need to, cut
More
interest
cuts.
rates on that. So I'm not sure on that one. I think my guess it'll probably be just pretty much right in line with what people are expecting. It'll be kind of a non-event.
Yeah.
It's still pretty darn low at 4.1%.
Yep.
Sure. So other notable earnings this week. Is there any that stuck out to you guys? I have a couple in my head that stuck out to me.
Just the last couple. McDonald's, the quarter itself was okay. Guidance wasn't great, but the stock actually went up.
Mm-hmm.
But the stock's been bad. It's been down 15% in the last quarter or so. So it's been an underperformer. I think that was my point earlier. I think you're starting to see these names that have been underperforming for the year, that the reports are okay at best. They're not disasters, and then yet the stocks are starting to trade up. So the broadening out of the market, people are starting to give them, just a little bit of more leeway. Starbucks reported last night, and that was indicated up. Same thing. Wasn't a very good quarter.
It wasn't a great quarter, but it went up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, Mike, your thoughts on that?
Well, I noticed the same thing in the big pharma companies, which are, big in the indices. I noticed that Bristol Myers, Pfizer, and Merck. I mean, they've all been not very good stocks.
Terrible.
They all reported, and they're all kind of bouncing up 5 to 10%, depending on the name. So, that's just part of that rotation and all that. I mean, I think these things traded like, 8 to 9 times earnings, where, NVIDIA and those trade in the 30 to 40 or 50 ranges. So, it's just part of that pivot, I think, that's kind of gradually happening here.
Do you think there's anything to do with the consumer? Because the ones that stuck out in my head was McDonald's, Starbucks, and Procter & Gamble. And they had some very different reactions on their quarter, despite pretty much the same commentary, if you will, a pullback on the consumer a little bit, right?
Yeah, and it seems like it's the low-end consumer.
Yeah,
right?
So like McDonald's
they call
missed, right? Their same-store sales were down 1% versus expected.
Which is first time since 2020 that they had a negative comp, which is a big deal, right? So, I mean, that's COVID time.
Yeah, and they introduced their value meal, and then last week they announced they're extending it. So even despite the value-driven approach they're trying to have with the $5 meals, they still can't get people to the store. Same thing with Starbucks. China sucks. People are pulling back on their $7 coffees. Unfortunately, I have one right here.
Well, Tyler's still supporting him, I guess.
I'm supporting him.
Better buy the stock.
I don't know why, but yeah. But I mean, they were up big, and then Procter & Gamble, your typical household type company, their stock went down on the quarter. So I'm just curious, is that a read through for you guys on potentially what's to come in the economy?
It's a little bit, but I think that's been priced into a lot of stocks already. I think that's why you saw the reaction. Like Procter & Gamble has actually been a good stock, and their numbers were okay, but they actually sold off. So I do think you're starting to see that rotation. I think that if the unemployment hangs around 4.1%, we get our interest rate cut. I think the consumer is still spending, still working, that the low end consumer will hang in there enough. I mean, it's been weak, so I don't think they're going to get much worse. Now, if they get worse, then names like McDonald's and some of these other low end kind of consumer names will have a tough time.
Yeah, I would buy McDonald's before. I mean, I think McDonald's actually realizes that charging $8 for hamburgers and all that isn't going to work and isn't going to be a long-term strategy for them, and they're addressing it. I mean, I look at companies like Starbucks, where they're still, they haven't lowered the prices at all. I mean, they're still $7.50. Lululemon, I mean, that stock's been getting killed, and I mean, there's kind of a revolt against $125 pants and things like that. So
yeah.
I
come on now.
Tyler's away first.
Come on.
But I don't know if people all own enough Lululemon pants already, or if they're just saying like, I'm kind of done. I'm a little bit strapped here with inflation. I'm just not paying that anymore.
Yeah.
Or if it's a combination of both. But, I just think some of these extreme prices that you see out there, it seems like everything is really expensive, and you can find cheaper options, and people are starting to do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So switching gears, and this is a little bit of a wait what, and also a young versus old, just on how I want to ask the questions here.
Oh boy, Tyler may have to answer his own questions. I think.
But Ethereum ETFs have officially started trading. So if you recall, we went through a year and a half, 2 years process of trying to get Bitcoin ETFs traded. Beginning of the year, they finally happened, and now all of a sudden, a few months later, we've got Ethereum already.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with Bitcoin versus Ethereum?
Yeah.
You little young versus old here.
A store of value, right? They're both digital currencies, right? One, Ethereum's used more for application process
Yes.
platform,
Yep.
right? So it's got a little bit more.
Gosh, look at you.
A little bit more.
Impressed.
I'm old, but not. I still read a little bit. And then obviously Bitcoin's the the big guy in the space, and that's kind of, to me, from what I understand, that's more of a store of value. Like I'm gonna go buy something with Bitcoin, whereas
I don't have any idea what the difference is between the two. I know they're the two biggest cryptocurrencies, and that's probably why you manage the digital discovery portfolio versus Keith or I.
Yes.
But the way I think about it is, I mean, we started out with Bitcoin, now we're Ethereum. I mean, I would fully expect it to be, Dogecoin or Solana or Cardano or whatever.
What
it
are the
is.
next third one?
Some of the bigger ones.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure when the ETF business first got started, I mean, it started out with an S&P, and then it ended, and then they started out with the Dow ETF, and then a NASDAQ ETF, and today we have an ETF on every
3 stocks if you
sector
want,
and group and whatever. So
one stock,
I would expect it to proliferate even more than just these two. So I think this thing is just getting started. I don't really understand it per se, but it seems like it's getting more real all the time and more legit.
So the reason I bring it up is I wonder if we're getting into like a gold versus silver scenario, right? Gold is kind of your store of value. Silver is there for an investment purpose, but it's more of an industrial application that it's more real world use, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, at least in my opinion, to see if this turns into that same type of scenario where if there's any sort of concern, not to say that people are going to pile into Bitcoin if there's a lot of concern, but if there is, people are going to go to the store of value, which is Bitcoin, and then Ethereum and silver just kind of get left behind, and then eventually they make up the price performance later on. There's usually a lag in performance.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious if that kind of
it certainly could. That's a good analogy, I think. And then what I think is more interesting is the fact that now I hate to bring politics in this thing with elections coming up, right? But it's like now all of a sudden it used to be Trump was anti-Bitcoin, now he's pro-Bitcoin. He's kind of the face of it, just presenting at one of their conferences, and then
he was at the Bitcoin conference.
He was at the Bitcoin conference and
bashing Gary Gensler.
Yeah, and the Democrats supposedly been holding it up a little bit more, right? And so now you're starting to see tone of them changing as well. So it seems like whether you like Bitcoin or not, it seems like it's here to stay.
Just getting a little more mainstream all the time as time ticks away. And speaking of that, we're going to have a big Bitcoin proponent at our Elite Advisor Forum in September, Anthony Scaramucci.
Yeah, nice.
The name of his firm, Skybridge Capital.
Yep.
And we actually use some of his cryptocurrency ETFs in our portfolios.
His actively managed ETF that he has.
Yeah.
We have it in our.
That's in your digital discovery.
Yep.
Nice.
So we'll get his opinion. He seems to be the kind of one of the leading experts on it as far as investing in cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And he'll be speaking at our Elite Advisor Forum, so I'm excited to hear what he has to say.
Maybe he'll also give us a little update on who he thinks will.
He will.
Yeah. He's got a little bit of interest in it.
We didn't even really talk about Elite Advisor Forum. That's coming up in I don't know,
soon,
in 2 months.
Yeah.
It'd
be fantastic.
I'm just really proud of the lineup we have this year. I think it's really, really strong, and we got we're getting close to 100 registrations, so it's going to be a great conference, I think.
You want to give us, for anybody that listens, do you want to give us a quick overview of what
it is?
Elite Advisor Forum is?
Yeah, I mean, Elite Advisor Forum is really it's an advisor forum, I want to call, and it's a day and a half of presentations. It's roughly I'd say it's kind of split a third between practice management, how to make your RIA firm better, market strategists, talking about the stock market and the bond market and cryptocurrency, and
just notable
strategists
names for that is like Brian Belsky,
Anthony Scaramucci, Sherman from Double Line Capital, who's considered one of the bond and interest rate gurus. You see him on CNBC all the time. And then the other, then we have a couple motivational speakers, next Navy SEAL coming in, and
those ones are always fun.
they
Tyler and I
really
enjoy
are.
those.
And then of course we end up with you two giving your thoughts and forecasts on the market and all that. So I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear those. Yes.
Pins and needles, right?
But people love it. It's at the airport hotel. They can fly in. They just walk right to the conference center and the hotel. It's a great facility. It's time to go. You just walk to your gate, and people love the logistics of it and the ease in and out. And it's just gotten more and more popular over the years.
Yeah.
Nice.
It'll be fun. I think I'm really excited for this year's lineup, especially, we had both Brian Belsky and Anthony Scaramucci last year. We got them back this year.
Yeah, it's a big lineup.
That one's going to be,
yep.
I'm really excited for those guys. All right. Spaghetti wall here. I've got some Olympics trivia.
No, boy. Mike and I should shine here.
All right, let's go.
All right. So there's 4 new sports this year. Do you know what the new sports are?
Ping pong.
No. Handball?
No.
Surfing.
What? Oh, that's the ones in Tahiti, right?
Tahiti. And
nice.
have you seen their hotel? Their floating hotel?
No.
Oh, it looks so cool.
I saw that picture of the guy on the surfboard and above the waves yesterday. That was
pretty
incredible.
Sweet.
Tell us what they are, Tyler.
So surfing, skateboarding, sport climbing, and then breaking. So like break dancing is the
I did hear about that one.
What?
Yes, yeah.
So yep. And the reason I was asking this is because David and I were talking about when pickleball might get introduced.
And
it sounds like it's not until 2032.
It'll be there eventually, though.
So they got rid of like baseball and softball, and they got
Just wait.
Okay.
So 2028 Olympics in LA, there's 5/6 new sports being introduced. Can you take a guess?
Softball,
baseball.
Oh, good. Mike and I are just crushing this.
2 of the 6.
Pickleball.
Nope.
Dang it.
Do they ever get video games in here, or is it?
No.
All
right. What are they, Tyler? We
don't know.
All right. So baseball, softball, lacrosse, cricket.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And flag football.
I'm surprised.
Ooh.
Flag football. That'll be
flag
interesting.
football.
Yeah.
That one I'm excited for.
Yeah.
Apparently, some of the NFL guys have said that they'll play for Team USA.
Wow. Okay.
For real?
Yeah. Mahomes said he would.
Oh,
nice. That'd be legit.
I think Tyreek Hill said he would. That'd be
that'd be cool.
So, what athlete has the most Olympic gold medals?
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps. How many?
7.
No, it's like 12 or 14 or something, isn't it?
Oh, I'm going way back.
Hold on.
Hang on. We had teams, individuals.
He went to 4 Olympics, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's
4
true.
Olympics,
And he did relays and team
relays.
It's got to be above 20.
How many medals or gold medals?
Gold medals.
Gold medals. Okay. I don't know.
What is it?
23.
Wow, that's a lot.
And I think he's got
That
27 or 28 total.
I mean, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I remember when Mark Spitz had like the 7. Maybe that's where I got the 7 from. The 7 and 1.
Oh, didn't he have it at one event? Didn't he? Or one Olympics?
In one Olympics, I think he. There's a picture of him. He's wearing like all his medals across. Wow. He had like 4 of them.
Yep. So, what is the record for most Olympic appearances?
Boy, this is.
Boy, they're every 4 years. So, I mean,
I saw a lady riding a horseback. I caught about 2 minutes, and she said that was like her 5th. So I don't know if that counts.
I'm gonna say 6.
10.
That's 10. 40-year span.
Equestrian though.
Okay. It was.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, last one. So table tennis, ping pong has been in the Olympics 37 times. How many times has China won table tennis?
37 times?
37 times.
Go ahead, Mike. I got a good guess.
China. I'm going to say 37.
No, you think it would be all of them, but they got to lose a few. 28?
32.
Okay.
Ooh,
not bad. Both was close.
Yeah. So
quick question. Have either of you, Keith and I have actually held a gold medal before?
Yeah.
Have you ever held a gold medal, Tyler?
I have not.
In your favorite sport?
1980. When back
Olympic
in the
hockey
day
team.
when we worked.
I haven't. What do you mean held it?
No.
When we
held it.
Yeah.
You did?
When we worked for Lutheran Brotherhood, which is now Thrivent, back in the day.
I think I know where this is going.
A company called Wessels Arnold.
Yeah.
held an event and Rob McClanahan worked there, and he was there, and he brought his gold medal, so people got to take a picture and hold his gold medal from the 1980.
We actually got we had a private screening of the movie when it came out.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a private screening of the movie.
Wow, it was already out, but we had a movie theater rented out with him. Yeah, we got to hold the medal. It was
awesome,
fantastic. Yeah, that was really fun.
Well, good.
Quick before we go here. Let's just put you two on the spot here.
Oh, gosh.
Tyler, is the S&P 500 going to be higher and lower than where it is today by the end of the year?
Higher.
Keith?
Slightly higher, yeah. I'm going higher. I think we're going to do some chop. I think we're going to get another 5-8% pullback here before you're in.
I would agree it'll be higher.
3 for 3.
Will Bitcoin be higher or lower, Tyler?
Higher.
Keith?
Lower.
I'm going to go higher. And then finally,
just so you know, Keith, we did just add one of the Bitcoin ETFs to our digital discovery portfolio.
Yeah.
Oh, then I'm changing my answer.
And then finally, how many interest rate cuts in 2024, Tyler?
2024, 1.
Keith?
I'm going 2.
I'm going to go 2 also.
How about 2025? Do you got a quick guess on that?
I'm going to go 3.
I would say if we're going out to end of 2025, if you go every other meeting, I would go with 4 total.
Yeah, I'm guessing 3. That just sounds like a good number.
I kind of like, going from about 5 1/4 down to 4.
Yep.
That's kind of where I got that in the next year and a half, and that's kind of where.
Yeah, if you do 2 this year, 3 next year, that's gonna.
I feel that'll satisfy.
I've got 1 this year, 4 next year.
There we go.
Same spot.
Same spot.
Same place. We end up at 4% short-term rates.
We diversifying opinions here.
There we go.
Perfect. And I would actually ask you who's going to win the election in November, but we'll save that.
We better save that. We got a few more weeks.
I'm not chiming in on that one.
All right, we'll save that for another day.
All right. Well, Binger, thanks for being on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Keith, we'll see you next week probably.
And
for all those of you that are listening, thanks for tuning in and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.